Welcome to the channel. I want to know the truth. I present to read the article found in the internet, the link in the description. Unfortunately, I am not the native speaker of the English language. I will ask you at once forgiveness for the inaccuracy of the translation. So, let's begin.
The article is called Industrially Developed Civilization Exists on Earth for Tens of Thousands of Years. For in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. Ecclesiastes. Dear readers, after reading this article, you most likely will have to conduct a complete audit of your knowledge obtained at school and higher educational institutions. At least in such disciplines as history, geography, geology. So, let's go. I show you a logical chain of my reasoning and conclusions. We have to date a huge number of artifacts, which can't be repeated today in the absence of technology, equipment and specialists. And which show that for 200 years and earlier there was a global civilization on Earth compared to which we are children in the sandbox. A few examples. Babel's bath. Granite. Weight 105,000 pounds. Sorry for the expression, deceive what she allegedly made this Master Sukinov Samson did during 7 years, cut out as Mr. Geppetto, polished, and so on, nonsense. With all responsibility as a fifth-class turner, I declare it as a machining, the concave, convex surfaces of this bath, the sharpest circle around the whole diameter, the finest spherical surface of the lower part of the bath. Inside the bottom of the bath is also the most concave concavity along the whole diameter. Such an article it is not possible to do manually, let alone polish. Such an impression is formed that only yesterday it came out from under the machine. Polishing dark, bad in the photo is not visible like the columns of Isaac Class 4-5. This can't be achieved without high-speed polishing tools. Alexandria's column weighing 1,400,000 pounds, 88 feet high. The shape is not a cone, but an entasis. Without turning in a lathe, it is impossible to make such a product. Try to order a small copy of such an item with an ideal radius from any hardwood or wood-based turner with a height of at least 80 inches and a diameter of 12 inches. But requiring only a hand tool, planers, chisels, sandpaper, and he refuses. Peru, Ollantaytambo. Polygonal docking of blocks, weighing 90,000 pounds to 200,000 pounds. The level of fit yourself see. Blocks are combined in 3 planes. Capella San Severo de Singano. It is made of one piece of marble. Without an advanced CNC machine, it is impossible to make such a thing. For the last 50 years, nothing remotely resembling the complexity of the performance was done by any sculptor. Even with CNC machines. Marble tombstone at the Monumental Cemetery Museum of Stalino in Genoa. Stone bridge in Sevastopol. Each polygonal stone bridge is in fact a separate sculpture. An example of modern work with a stone behind the bridge on the left. A wall made of wild stone. By today's standards it is considered quite acceptable. Further, all the cities on the planet were built from stone in antique style with pre-designed layouts of streets, avenues, embankments and so on. All cities had a stone bastion wall, the construction volume of which is often equal to the building volume of the city itself. In the area of 1780 to 1815 there was a thermonuclear war, most likely not for the first time on the planet, the result of which was the nuclear winter of 1816, the year without summer. Anglo-Saxons call it 1800 and froze to death. I will give several screenshots of Google Earth photo of nuclear funnels on the territory, for example, Belarus. Such funnels are easy to find, hundreds in almost all countries. White traces around the funnels are broken limestone, the main building material of that time. In the above-mentioned funnels of Belarus there is water, as the level of groundwater is apparently high. But there are a lot of funnels on the surface of the planet without water. For example, in Ukraine. As a result of the nuclear winter, almost all plants have died out and polar caps have formed. This confirms the almost complete absence in the northern hemisphere of trees older than 200 years. Some of them burned out in the war, some were frozen. To visually evaluate this, type in Google Roger Fenton Crimea or James Robertson Crimea and click on the pictures. You will see photographs of these two first military photographers sent to the Crimea in 1853 after the nuclear war, after 40 years, approximately, to photograph the siege of Sevastopol. Compare the vegetation then and now. An example of one photo of Fenton near Sevastopol. Dial in Google Siberia photo of the 19th century. You will see many photos of the end of the 19th century, on which trees have just begun to grow. For example, Sverdlovsk region. After this war, we retreated into development, to the level of feudal society. The Anglo-Saxons had a profit, as they got the least of it. They crushed the remnants of the world for 150 years under themselves. Reinvented the steam engine on coal and went on. Now the era of oil and gas, nuclear energy, and our industrial complex uses the entire periodic table of Mendeleev, allegedly invented in a dream. In fact, they just threw it through him. We pass to the most interesting. I affirm that the current civilization is only a shadow of the past. We are children in comparison with them. Through the industrial equipment of the past civilization it cannot be proved, so it was simply recycled and melted down. For example, after the collapse of the USSR, drunks were digging trenches and cables and water pipes from the ground to get to the point of reception of metal. But how can we prove it? And it's easy. If the departed civilization was much more developed, then for the functioning of its industrial and metallurgical complex, the whole periodic table of Mendeleev was also needed. And all isotopes of elements. And there are almost all elements of the periodic system in the rock and earth. So, you need to show me the scale traces of rock exodus from the slopes of the mountains, from the surface of the earth and from under the earth, as well as traces of recycled waste rock after its enrichment at the mining and processing plants of the past. This and do. I will use the analogy method, so it is very clear. Until the 18th century, residential buildings were built almost exclusively of limestone. For cutting, advanced machines were used, on which the ideal parallelepipeds were made. In the seam of masonry from such limestone blocks you do not stick the blade. Here is a photo of a house in the Crimea, the first floor of which is covered with clay for 3 or 4 meters, as in all cities on the territory of the former USSR. In Sevastopol, Simferopol, Feodosia, Kirchall houses that are buried in the ground for 3 to 4 meters have a masonry of this quality. Passes 200 years, and during the Soviet era, such a limestone cladding is considered very good. Clutch quality as in the first photo is no longer used anywhere. This is called regression. Now we look, in what volumes, and for how long on this planet limestone was extracted, the basic building material. On the example of the Crimea, since I from here and the local landscapes and catacombs pushed me to the right path. This is Eski Kerman. You illiterate guides will tell you that this is one of the cave cities of the Crimea, where people lived. To my question about this rut, I was told that this track was made by the wheels of the carts of the local nobility. Here is another cave city of Crimea, Chufu Kale. And this, a modern Crimean quarry for limestone mining. With the sawed-out carpenter's room. Apparently, it is convenient to store the tool. Mentally send this bit into the future for 10,000 to 20,000 years. Apply to it the effect of wind and water erosion and what will you get out of the way? Correctly, another cave city of Crimea. The track in the upper photo, as you understand, is left by a trolley on which the sandstone was removed. Although, in the post-nuclear era, a career is a good place for survivors, apparently, it was used as a protected town. Go ahead. In the Crimea, thousands of miles of catacombs, in which sawed limestone volumes are simply beyond the reach. Moreover, it is officially declared that the stone was mined from the time of the ancient Greeks, BC even before. He sawed by hand saws and was extracted by chisels with spades. I went on an excursion to Agimashkayski quarries. Unfortunately, I did not take a photo. The ceiling clearly shows the traces of circular saws, with a thickness of 0.15 inches. The diameter of the disc is about 6.5 feet. It is clearly visible on the walls. When after cutting the block was broken off, then in the place in which the disc stopped the diameter is clearly visible, will be in the catacombs. Pay attention. In this photo, taken before the 1917 revolution, you see that a segment is carefully cut from the limestone slope, at the bottom of which a railway passes and houses are built. Now a very important shot of the Inkerman quarry, the name Champagne, made in 1890. On it we see the sod passage through the hill with a width of 330 feet and a height of 260 feet. There are huge niches in the walls. There are single-story houses in them. Under the vertical wall, we see small, unconsolidated limestone pieces and limestone crumbs, which are piled up in the form of a slope and are poured from under the saws. Some of these niches are the beginning of the catacombs, which extend hundreds of kilometers inland. Large-scale underground mining of limestone was conducted. During the Second World War, these catacombs housed a headquarters, a hospital, a tailoring shop, warehouses. Inside the trucks came free. At the retreat, the entrances were blown up. By the way, there are ancient catacombs under any city of the planet. Type in Google. Under Odessa, the length of the catacombs is 1,500 miles. And now we reveal the manipulation. What you are served under the guise of rocks, canyons, and gorges is nothing more than a career. Both very ancient careers, and relatively fresh. So, the Crimea, Belogorsk, White Rock. This is a limestone quarry. The wall was formed as a result of the slope of the hillside. At the foot of the wall, a characteristic mound of limestone crumbs and substandard. Furthermore, you see this passage, from which the mass of limestone was confiscated in the Bakhchisaray region. They give him away for the valley. Slopes of limestone crumb under the walls are already covered with oak forests. Compare the top photo of the gorge with the photo of Inkerman of the 19th century. The mounds near the vertical walls of limestone crumbs have not yet been overgrown with wood. And the picture from 1855 of this place with the aqueduct on the other side. In the background, you can also see giant door open cast mining of limestone. Same Bakhchisaray district. In this photo there is a settlement. He is at the bottom of an ancient quarry, but it is called the valley that the river washed. That's bullshit. On the contrary, after this mountain passed through the bottom of the quarry, water from the broken aquifer flowed, or the stream, which had previously flowed along a different route, flowed. This is the norm of the day for any career. The river cannot wash out the mountain range standing on its way. It will be a dam on its way. Many of you, who at the age, saw in the childhood streams that flow from a vertical wall of limestone. For 30 to 40 years, this stream increased the diameter of the hole from which it flows. That's just it. Well, the scale of stone mining in a small Crimea impresses you? Looking ahead, I will say that this is still a trifle. There is not a single cube of rock on this planet, probably 300 feet deep across the whole area, which would not have been mined, threshed, chewed and discarded. This is not a planet, it is a giant quarry in which the most barbaric way is extracted the entire periodic table. And now look at the photo and pay attention to the tiered structure of quarries and mines. Extraction of iron ore at the Lebedinsky deposit by an open explosive method. Magnetic Mountain, Ural. Cheremshansky nickel mines. Copper mines, Kennecott, Utah, USA. Quarry East Ruta. Copper Quarry Bingham Canyon in Utah, USA. Magnesium Quarry in Navarre. Rotary excavator. Power consumption in the region of 4 to 5 megawatts. But on them will be more in detail. Just remember how he chooses the breed. Forms, in fact, a canyon with large tiers. Rotary excavator tiers cuts the mountain range. Formed a structure with right angles, if viewed from above. Another excavator chose the breed in a semicircle in front of it. Now I'll show you mountains, mountain ranges, canyons in almost uninhabited places with different romantic names. Often they have names by the name of a pioneer. Can academics and professors not see this from geology and geography? Mountain on the Kola Peninsula. I do not know the name. The mountains. Antarctica. A semicircular rock selected by a rotary excavator in Antarctica, which was only opened in 1820. Antarctica. Here even the tracks from the tracks of heavy equipment have been preserved. Greenland. The Watkins Mountains. How do you like the scale of production? Greenland. Flight Frankfurt, Los Angeles. Gunbjorn, the highest mountain of Greenland, 12,140 feet, no problem, gutted almost completely. Svalbard, Norway. Aurora Borealis against the background of the Antarctica Quarry, Transantarctic Mountains, at the foot of the Traces of Technology. Antarctica. Transantarctic Mountains, quarry system. Pay attention to the background. Mount Kailas, Tibet, height of 21,778 feet. Have you seen that in our time to this height raised heavy mining equipment? Mount Kailas, Tibet. Goblin Valley, State Park, Utah, USA. Gloss Mountains State Park, Oklahoma, USA. The top of cynicism is a spent career call national parks. Now inhale deeper and look with your eyes wide open. Grand Canyon, Arizona, United States. It's just a giant quarry, gutted territory. Millions of tourists think that this is almost a miracle of the world, because they were told so. Career Grand Canyon, Arizona, USA. There are no traces of water erosion anywhere, only shock explosive impact on the rock. Quarry, rocks of the Svalbard Archipelago. Grand Canyon Quarry. Stone cut with a circular saw. Career in Australia. Blue Mountains. Blue Mountains from another angle. Blue Mountains. Vertical wall. Compare it to the wall of a marble quarry in the Alps, which has not yet undergone water and air erosion extraction of marble in the Alps. The giant quarry. I do not know where. The photo is offered as wallpaper on the desktop throughout the internet. Caprock Canyon State Park, Texas. Again, a national park created from a spent quarry in the USA and waste quarries where a lot of people are engaged in farming. Rice Terraces, Banawe. Rice Terraces, Banawe. In Tears Canyon de Chelly National Monument, USA. The national monument here saws, in all likelihood, were made by mining. Painted Hills in Oregon. Officially, this place attracts thousands of tourists annually, especially those interested in geology and paleontology. Of course, here also comes a considerable number of photographers, in search of magical landscapes. Painted Hills is an area protected by the U.S. government, and all 3,130 acres of land represent the historical heritage of modern Americans. Mountains Ravine. Impressive volumes. South Africa. Orange River and Mountains. Timna National Park in Israel. Timna Quarry in Israel. Quarry Green Canyon in China. Flooded Quarry, Chervik Reservoir in Uzbekistan. The flooded quarry Chervik Reservoir in Uzbekistan. Another perspective. I'll tell you more. It seems that there are no natural mountains and gorges on this planet. Do you see the photo? This is a giant quarry, although there are no obvious tiers, but it is clear that this is a quarry. I trust my intuition. Now we pass to the most terrible part. Now I will show you how deserts are created on Earth. Notice how the rotary excavator removes layer after layer of rock from large areas. One more photo. Here they are too. They immediately remove 2 layers from one area. In the lower left corner of the large bulldozer ride, estimate the scale. Excavator removes the layer height of 100 to 130 feet. The bottom of the quarry is a huge square and it is absolutely flat as a table, convenient for moving the excavator. A couple more photos. It turns out that on our planet there are quarries the size of several countries are the size of an entire desert. For example, in the territory of Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, Iran, there is no fertile soil for the most part. Because from almost the entire area of these countries a layer of rock with thickness of 330 feet was removed along with soil and all living things. It's hard to believe, but you'll have to believe your eyes. It seems that the Aral Sea and the Caspian Sea are giant flooded quarries. Yes, all the areas on the planet painted in Google Map in yellow. This is the bottom of the quarries. The Bosphorus tract is in the western part of the Ustyurt Plateau, Kazakhstan. Do you see that? The elevations behind Volkswagen are a wall formed by a rotary excavator. The Ustyurt Plateau. In the middle of the picture there is a group of cars. As far as the eye can see, the top layer of the soil with a thickness of 330 feet is removed. If a layer of water of 50 feet is splashed here, then an analog of the Azov Sea will be obtained. Sea of Azov. Flooded old quarry. The bottom is level, like a table on which rotary excavators rolled. The maximum depth is 50 feet. Perhaps they extracted thorium. Dial in Google, the radioactive sands of Azov. The edge of the Karakum Desert. The area is more than 135,000 square miles. Impression that on the planet worked some kind of planetary ripper. In reality, a quarry. For the population, Yangakala Canyon, Turkmenistan. In reality, a quarry. For the population, Plateau Tuzbear, Kazakhstan. United States, Monument Valley. Previously, the area of this territory was the height of the top of the head directly at the rate. The layer is several hundred feet high. United States, Monument Valley. Here is the same. Namibia. The desert is the bottom of a quarry. Egypt. The top layer is dug together with the soil. They also burned nuclear weapons. Much of Australia is dirty. There is no soil, entirely red desert. Australia. Nigeria. Desert. The conclusion is this: in the deserts they are completely man-made. They appeared as a result of long-term metallurgical activity. And even more so. Feel free to replace in your vocabulary words canyon, gorge, rock, ravine, plateau, mountain, lake, just a lake, to the words of a quarry, mine, and flooded quarry, flooded mine. On old foreign maps of 16th to 17th centuries, where the territory of Ukraine, Russia and other former republics is often marked as Tartary, the rivers flow more or less straight, smoothly turning. Modern rivers in this area strongly loop, sometimes turning 180 degrees. Here, for example, a screenshot of the Tobol River in Siberia. One shore near such rivers is often higher than the other, and this is explained by the forests of Coriolis. And now a photo of the river in the Voronezh region. The place is called Krivobury. The river did not flow through this loop before. It flowed here when the height of the landscape changed after the removal of the soil by a rotary excavator. Crooked in another angle. On the island in the middle, overgrown with bushes, was a rotary excavator. And what does official science tell us about this career? I quote, the Krivobury break is a huge ravine, a geological section, which is valuable for studying the geological past of the Voronezh region. According to the peculiarities of the soil structure and organic remains, geologists restore natural events that occurred here several millennia ago. Its name, Krivobury, was received in honor of the shape of the forest, which is located on one of its cliffs. This pine forest, which is home to many large wild animals. At present, Krivobury is considered a national monument of nature. On its territory, any activity is prohibited, except for sightseeing and educational. This place is often visited by students of geological and geographical faculties to do research work. While all the geologists of the planet unsuccessfully restore what kind of natural events occurred in the Krivobury several thousand years ago, I will do it for them, a rotary excavator 200 to 300 years ago, judging by the spilling slope. And this situation is typical for the whole planet. Often in a conversation you can hear accusations of cosmology. Say, to hide anything from society is impossible. And in this there is some truth. Why hide, if everything is inside and nobody sees? Or here's another chutzpah. It is obvious that the rotary excavator was working on limestone in Switzerland. But people are presented with Creux du Van, a giant rocky hollow in the shape of a horseshoe with a width of 4,600 feet and a height of about 650 feet. A natural amphitheater formed as a result of rock erosion on the territory of the Jur mountain range and the canton of Neuchâtel. Siberia. Anabar Plateau. River Jogyo. We go further, put ourselves in the place, the one who got the planet, and move on to the next metallurgical stage. A breed with a certain content of the desired element was mined. What should I do with it? Before it can be sent for melting or extraction of the desired element in some other way, the ore needs to be enriched in order to increase the percentage of content. To do this, it is sent to the ore mining and processing plants. There they separate the concentrate, and empty waste rock is transported to the dumper to the waste tank. You logically ask me, and where are the deposits of gangue with such huge volumes of ore mining? And I have to show you. In your vocabulary, replace the words hill, mount, volcano, hills on the words dump and treble, and everything will fall into place in your head. But it's better to see once. These are waste tanks with the spent down base breed. Their height sometimes reaches 1,000 feet. Inside of them there are chemical reactions. They burn and sometimes explode when excess pressure accumulates inside. This is just a Vesuvius slag heap in Italy with a height of 4,203 feet. but it was called a volcano, as it burns and exploded once. And he was also called so that you do not guess. Let's look into his caldera. If this is a volcano, then the walls of the caldera should be melted with liquid lava. And if the waste tank, the walls will be layered and will consist of a loose rock that can be digged with a shovel. We look carefully. And what do we see? Slag heap. And this is the Klyuchevsky slag heap. It's on 4,850 meters, Tarakan Taranaki in New Zealand. Well, where our frozen, crystallized lava flows, the slopes consist entirely of loose rock. And this is the slag of Santa Ana in El Salvador, the blasted top of the potato pod Popocatépetl in Mexico, the height of 17,802 feet, Tarakan Malyusemiachok, Kamchatka Territory. From Wikipedia, it is a short ridge about 2 miles long, consisting of 3 merging cones, the northern old one, which is the highest 5,118 feet. Tolbachuk. From Wikipedia, volcanic massif on Kamchatka, in the southwestern part of the Klyuchevskaya group of volcanoes. The altitude is 12,080 feet. The structure includes Ostry Tolbachuk 12,080 feet and Ploski Tolbachuk operational, high 10,300 feet merged with it. More than 120 slag cones are located on the slopes of Ploski Tolbachuk and in the adjacent Tolbachinsky Dale. Slag, Carl. You have not yet put aside 4 salaries to visit the slopes of the Fujimi Tarakan in Japan. Hurry up, it's worth it. They sorted out the scraps. Now go to the dumps, which do not have a pronounced cone shape. Here the rule is, if loose, layered and can be digged with a shovel, it is most likely a waste of the waste rock that our ancestors piled up in a hurry to live. For example, a gorgeous geological park in China's Angyudanja. Colored mountains, beauty. Under the protection of the state, of course. Tourists drive exclusively along the paved trails, so that God forbid tourists do not fall into this toxic spent hun. Blade Rock Schmidtica, Norilsk. Or, for example, you go along the river valley of Sugrin, in the Pamirs, around a pile of some kind of land piles, nothing grows. And these are dumps. The Pyatigorsk Mountains are very similar to waste heaps. The Philippines is one of the most desired places to visit on the planet, and if you do not know much about the Philippines, then you should definitely listen to the world-famous island of Bohol. It became famous due to the Chocolate Hills, which stretched on the territory of about 20 square miles, in the number of 1268 hills of the right cone shape with a height of 330 feet. In general, you understand the principle. Have seen a hill near the house? Take a look, think, most likely it will be human-made. And on the earth there are no natural caves. Revised a bunch of rollers. All caves are of varying degrees of antiquity. Mountain underground penetrations, often stacked. Yes, many collapsed, began to look chaotic, but from this they did not cease to be artificial. An important addition to the production waste from the blogger Milnikovdom. By the way, one of the readers on my blog gave an interesting tip. Many people ask about where the dumps from the beneficiation plant are located, which should be commensurate with the scale of production shown. At the same time, we have a huge amount of sand in the deserts, the origin of which no one has so far been able to explain properly and could not, especially when the deserts are in the continents. It is likely that the sand is the waste of the enrichment process. If we produce chemical enrichment, then to better contact the chemical with the rock it must be crushed to increase the surface area. That is, sand for these purposes fits best. In this case, after the enrichment, only the empty rock remains, that is, silicon or quartz, and everything else, including metals and their compounds, passes into solution. Then empty the rock. This version is also supported by the fact that there are sandy placers on all continents, even in the center of Siberia. Moreover, many of them are located relatively close to the mining sites, like the same Grand Canyon, and the Nevada Desert in the USA. In Central Asia, the Middle East and Egypt, the deserts are also neighbors with mountains, which have traces of development. A lot of sand along the river valleys, which also fits into this version. Sand poured into the river, and the stream carried it along the riverbed. Another argument in favor of this version is that in most cases river sand consists precisely of empty rock, that is, silicon or quartz, and not from the minerals that occur along the riverbed. The conclusions of this story can be done like this. 1. Production volumes are prohibitive. It is obvious that on Earth it is consumed well at 5% of the extracted. The Earth is like someone's giant quarry. Probably, mankind simply serves this quarry. 2. People come and go, states appear and collapse, nations form colliding foreheads and disappearing. One thing does not change, the millstones are grinded slowly, but surely. The poem taken from the Wikipedia. Though the mills of God grind slowly, yet they grind exceeding small, though with patience he stands waiting, with exactness grinds he all. The final point of our route, apparently the same as in the picture below. But even so, the millstones of God probably will not stop, so we, people will kindly design and build self-replicating robots by the time that they take our place. They will not depend on the composition of the atmosphere, and we will go down in history. By the way, now you know what volcanoes are on Mars. But the logic of the process suggests that someone who has a profit from this, our withdrawal from the scene, will not be very upsetting. Apparently, he is not here. He does not live here. I would like to know who this person is. As we all know, between the Lord the Master, whose name cannot be called and written through the line as GD, and we have intermediaries, God's chosen, they would have to ask. Simple Jews hardly knew even what I showed in this post, but high-ranking people know for sure. Begin to ask. We need a dialogue on this matter. In general, Judaism and its derived religions in the light of the revealed facts are represented by the control system of the planet, a career for a percentage. Periodically, when the employees get into the topic and start to rebel, we have to restart the system by organizing wars and breaking generations. And since we cut ourselves in what's what, then maybe soon it will begin, but what can be, that cannot be avoided. Power is in the truth. And the truth is that a society living in a closed system, continuously multiplying and tuned to consume tomorrow more than yesterday, is doomed as soon as it reaches the ceiling by the amount of available energy or territory. Infinitely develop and multiply can only be in the infinite universe. If we do not break out of the earth, we are doomed. But on the other hand, if they wanted to hide, Sergey Brin would never have made the publicly available service Google Maps, Google Images, and simply Google. And no one would ever have collected material on this topic in a bunch in one place. So, it's not so simple. By then, look for those who know the answers to questions and do not hesitate to ask. For example, the first half-joking question: how many rockets flies per year into orbit, and what do they carry besides satellites? For example, rhodium's ounce costs 75. The OSMIA 187 ounce is 70,000, and the California 252 ounce costs 2,150,000. At a cost of 1 pound output per orbit at 6,000, it is quite cost-effective to attract rare elements and isotopes there. Dirt stays here, a clean product to the owner.
Thank you for listening to this article. I decided to turn to the English-speaking part of our planet in order to understand what kind of guesses you have, dear YouTubers. With pleasure I read your comments and evidence of this or that seen in this video, and maybe together with you we can at least a little learn the truth of what is happening on the earth. Your likes and subscriptions will let me understand that you need to prepare more material for analysis and reasoning. I hope to see you again.